Howdy everyone, Poacher here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we're jumping into episode 2 of Hero Discussion. We're going to talk about some heroes of the game and possibilities. Today we are going to focus on things I'd like to see in the game that aren't currently in the game, but there is the potential or possibility, if Playcott wanted to mess around, have some fun, that we could see it. We're starting off with Rock. Now, there's nothing new about Rock. He's one of the older event heroes in the game. In fact, he's the first event hero to be released into the game. He's part of the Beastmen. He has a really nice skill set. There was a time where he was top of the meta charts. And yeah, so what about Rock would I like to see? Well, those unfamiliar with Rock's lore, he was turned into his raccoon form after an error went on with a spell he was casting. So, I would love to see them introduce the human version of Rock into the game. He would not be part of the Beastmen. He would be part of a different faction. He is only a Beastman because of the state he is in. So the question would lie in which faction would he belong to. There is no real elemental faction in the game, so he would not be descendant from there. My closest guess at the moment would be Knights of the Council. I think he could be a really powerful mage, maybe worked alongside Librarian at some point, and from there chose to go down the elemental skill chain instead of the arcane skill chain, and that's where he got his power from. And I think they could do a lot with this character. The Knights would need another character eventually anyway. They would surpass 7 characters. We still have Roland, who, of course, who knows what's going to happen with him and Sharazar. So I think the human version of Rock would be a wonderful addition to the Knights and definitely add some power to them, because they are starting to fall out of that scene. I mean, they already are out of the meta scene, but they do still get some kick in every now and then. So it's good to see, and a little bit of buff or improvement to the hero roster for their faction could prove to be very valuable. You just know it's going to be in the episode. The Goblins. We are still missing 2 of the Goblins. Now, the Goblins are a very old faction. Their uses in the game are very minimal now. They were needed in the Fire Gates raid, I believe it was. But with the release of Devourer and Void Gunner, people can make do very easily with the demons. So their use, I think, at the moment is pretty stagnant towards COC. I know there is a season where they are buffed. If you're not after top score leaderboards and you're relying on heroes specifically or purely to get through COC, I do know there is a season where they are a bit more powerful than normal, so there is the potential to use them there. If you are a player that has just invested and needs to get through Fire Gates, he will still get you through there, but obviously the demons are a better option. So adding 2 new heroes to this faction, I don't know what they could actually offer. I think the Goblins are best known for the synergy between Full Metal and Greasy Hair. The ability to apply the tank mark and then Full Metal Goon absolutely blow up the enemy. The issues the team has is there's no healing. There is a little bit of healing through a buff they apply to themselves, but it's very minimal. They do need an actual healer for the team, and they do not have a ranged damager either. So again, I'm not sure where exactly you would put these heroes or what you would add to them to make them strong. If I had to think of a way to make these heroes more useful, or at least the 2 new heroes added to this, I would honestly stray away from the Goblin faction altogether. I would add the 2 new heroes, and then I would add another faction, the Ratmen. I would love to see a Ratman faction, and because the Goblins are... their lore is heavily based around rats and dead rats, so it'd be an interesting synergy to see between the 2 new heroes, the Rat faction, and then I would try and add awakenings to these heroes that would benefit either the 2 new heroes or working with the Rat faction as well. Kind of like a Demon Renegade crossover. We'd have the Goblins and the Rat people. But it's just, as a collector, if you just want to have every hero of every faction, it's just a little scratching your OCD that 2 are missing when they're one of the older factions in the game. So it would be really nice to see the 2 new ones put in somehow, somewhere, for whatever reason. The third group of heroes I want to talk about are the Araken Undead. The Araken Undead, again, are one of the older factions in the game. In fact, they're probably the 3rd faction, I want to say. Apart from Roland's crew, you're introduced through the campaign to the kobolds first, the demons, and then the Araken undead. So they are technically the third faction introduced into the game. But what would I like to see about them? They're already an established faction. Apart from not having awakenings, there's not really a lot going on here that you could really do unless you completely overhaul the faction to make them meta, which is just never going to happen. We're never going to see it. That's not the point, though. If we look at the storyline of the game so far and what has happened, we've been introduced to the Archons of a different timeline. We have the Archons from our timeline and the Crimson Order, the Archons from a different timeline. I would love to see a different timeline of the Araken undead, just not the undead part. I'd love to see the alternate timeline of the Araken, just them as the people they were before they became the undead. I think there would be a lot of fun with that faction. They could really, really build into the blood sacrifice part of it, and the turning into the God Emperor ties to how they became the characters they are now through blood magic. I think that it would be a really, really cool faction, and I think it'd be a really cool faction you could work into the game that works on anti-healing and working against heroes or teams that really benefit from healing. For example, the Chaos Spawn, they are heavily influenced by the healing that happens on the team. If you could have a faction that manipulates that, turns it against them, I think that would work really well. Then you would have obvious counters like the Goose, for example, who don't touch too much on healing. They do have it, but they don't rely on it. So they could be a nice little counter to the Araken as well. But yeah, I would just love, because I think the Araken Undead are some of the cooler looking heroes. I loved them when they first came out. The skin for Araken Guard is one of my favorites. And I just think overall the scheme they have for them is really, really cool. And I think the live version of them would also be really nice to see as well. It'd have a really heavy Aztec theme to it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I don't know how they would introduce it into the storyline or why they would, but who knows? Just an idea they could potentially work on if they don't have any ideas at the moment. But I'm sure they do. But there you go. There are 3 things I would like to see put into the game somehow. I think it'd be really interesting. I think it works a lot on what's already in the game. And I'm not going to hold my breath, but that's not the point of these videos. It's just to have fun conversation about what is in the game and what we could see or what has been. That's the whole point of it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I will answer it to the best of my ability. And if you're around the world, until next time, please take care of yourself.